Okay, there we go. That worked out. Get Michael in here.
What
There's
happened?
hands.
Whoa!
What?
There are too many people talking right now.
One at a time, everybody.
It's crazy in here.
Do we accept Meowsper?
Yes.
Of course.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. Huh?
Who that? It's gonna be so
Not too
unserious.
Not too much on Meowsper.
I don't know who that is.
Now we're playing a big
Like,
role.
actually,
Okay.
Ahem.
okay.
Twitter Spaces are the laggiest thing ever. Not my fault. Not my fault.
Uh-huh.
You pressing that mute button. Okay, let me find
I
the.
pressed unmute and then mute, and then it's like taking 3 hours to do it. So whatever.
Can y'all hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Mute mouse poke.
Oh,
Who was doing that? Okay. Feel free to request. Everyone gets accepted. Oh, I had to press unmute. My bad.
hello.
Hello.
Okay, we here.
Okay.
Wait, let me find the topic, the agenda. Hold on, because I'm slacking on the agenda, so I really need to be informed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's pull out the agenda. Where's this? Oh, there it is.
Wait for Naveen to make the formal introduction.
Is everyone like who needs to be here?
There's a good amount of people here.
There are no behavior developers in the space.
Let's give everyone 5
Like that
minutes.
was ever happening.
Like,
They're not getting on here. They were advised not to come.
Not too much
Oh
though.
my god.
It might take a minute.
where is Easy E3D at?
Right.
Okay. Before we start off, we gotta say, we gotta keep this respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We gotta be classy.
We're not getting dragged.
Exactly. We can't set each other up here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. This is where the umphily really shows out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
I hope you know that we all started getting dragged the moment we started speaking.
Oh.
Anything else you gotta say? Don't attack. Yeah. Be respectful.
Don't name drop. No name drop.
dropping.
Yeah.
Use BHVR.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait. Yeah.
Okay, who wants to kick us? Who wants to kick this off?
I mean, you are the host.
It should be you.
Why should I got it?
Like.
Oh.
Wait, can y'all hear me?
What should we start with?
Okay.
Should we start from the beginning, like from Hattie's inception, from design way? To,
should we just follow the list?
Should we start on how her lore got changed, because that's how it started?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So who's gonna?
So
who's gonna start us off?
I'm kind of well versed in Hattie's lore. I've been a fan of her since Tome 6.
I'm saying.
You know.
Okay,
the floor is yours.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. You volunteered.
To the mic.
Ram just volunteered first.
Hold on. I'm collecting my thoughts right now. Okay, so. Okay.
I also
I
am
don't know
very
what
well
to
versed
say.
too, so I can help
Well,
out.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. A lot has already been said.
Maybe you could just say what her law was originally and how they changed it and why you think it was a bad idea to change it.
Let's give a background first to those who do not know who Haddie is. Then,
Me.
all right. So Haddie Kaur is a Indian Canadian podcaster who goes around the globe and documents with her brother and uncle of their marvelous adventures against the paranormal. We've been seeing them for a long time, almost 2 years, and recently we just had Haddie introduced into the game, but that's not the Haddie we got. We got a different Haddie.
Exactly, and I
So
told her.
So a major change in Hattie's lore was the death of her parents. This is in the tome lore. It's not really expanded upon, and in her survivor tome, it is like a major part of her character, kind of. That's how she got her hair streak.
So they just like
And
made that up out of the blue, basically.
yeah,
And
You just made that
because
up.
of that, because of her parents' death, we thought we were getting a Hattie up as a pariah with like Felix and
Right?
Elodie, but we got something totally different, something we weren't used to.
And one of my main gripes with it is that because of them introducing new lore for no reason, mind you, it like it loses a lot of the stuff that built her up and made everybody love her and like, oh, this is such a badass
Yeah.
character because she wins a fight against a vampire with a tree branch. I mean, come on now. Like, how could you not say mother? And like removing that just removes such a core badass aspect of her character that's like, why would you do that? You already have something that's so good just sitting there for you that you made. So I don't understand why you would just erase what you made and make something that is objectively just not as good.
So that's one of her problems. That's one of the problems with Hattie's design as a character is just the what's the word?
Continuity.
Yeah, continuity.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely get what you're trying to say with that. I think it's more because like the whole like perception of how Hattie was, like we were talking before, and how it is now. It's just like I feel like if you've already given the teasers before and like the archives, which is like the whole point, is building on the characters. It's just like completely rewriting that. It's just a retcon in a sense.
Exactly.
Kind of.
And it's so unnecessary.
Well, we covered that part. Should we move on?
So
Or
what?
I think we got that like out of the way. I mean, there's not much to say about it. There's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
So should we move on to her design?
Like,
And if so, I would like to pass the mic to Gowonite.
I agree.
Step up to the mic.
Okay, so
Let's talk.
Let's talk about that Bob.
Let's not talk about the Bob. Let's pretend it doesn't exist, actually.
It shouldn't have existed in the first place.
I'm saying.
Do you want me to go into like the culture? Should I do that?
Yeah, that's an important part of her.
Okay, so
Yes.
in the tomes, Hattie was her culture was a big part of her, and so I guess that's what they were trying to do with her in-game appearance, right? But I feel like they missed the mark because they didn't do their research properly.
Exactly.
Like look at her jewelry. Her jewelry it looks like she just went to like on Etsy, searched up Indian jewelry, and she put that on.
Like
And
I can send the thread that discusses that more in detail in like here if I can share it.
Link the Wanderlust.
All right,
I think that's her at. More on that. You can't tell that she. It looks like her design was mainly just to look Indian. and then take away from the rest of her the things that they build it up for her.
Exactly.
Anyone else gotta say anything about that?
Kind of like building on that, like,
All right,
like,
and I shared
like
the thread,
kind
by
of
the way.
you're saying, like, feeling like Indian. It was kind of like feels like kind of like a stereotypes in the way with like everything, with like every choice that was made. So it's like obviously, I feel like it's very important that the culture is represented correctly, but also like in a way that feels like more authentic to the character itself at
Exactly.
the same time.
So that means no Skechers.
Oh, what the?
Who was vacuuming?
Whose fan just turned off?
Let me read through this thread and inform myself.
Also, one part of her design is that, like, I really wish they leaned onto the whole like Monster Hunter aspect of her character.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I could talk about that all day because, oh my gosh, how insane is it that you have a character that literally fights the monsters that are from your game, and she doesn't have a killer sun perk, she doesn't have a boon, she doesn't have nothing. She's a supernatural character, and she doesn't have anything that shows that she's like supernatural or she fights monsters on a weekly basis. It's crazy.
I think on her design, I would, instead of like the white hair streak, it should have, like, if they really wanted to give her like a symbol of the entity, like with Vittorio with his glowing tattoos, I really think they should have just made her eyes like just like was like earlier Zayd was talking about how she can have her eyes be more lighter, like
Really,
more
yeah,
white out.
represent how she has visions of the overlap, which she calls it. Right,
because I think that hair streak do more bad than good, to be honest.
Right. A useless addition. They did more bad than good. Yeah.
And to that, like, it's not even customizable, so like it already loses like that much more purpose. Like, you can't recolor it. So like, what, like, if that was like the whole point of just to have that there, I would have rather them just not added it.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand why they made it so detrimental to her lore and all the marketing, and then just change it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Not one bit of sense.
A pattern of behavior. Okay. Well, when we talked about the Bob. Okay. Where should we go from here?
Should we move down the list to cosmetics, or should we continue on lore Haddie versus in-game Haddie?
I think
it can be like both. Like, if anyone, like, I guess like the audience has like a question or wants to like say something, they could like give an opinion on that too.
Yeah.
So.
Y'all want to speak?
Get up here.
Anyone itching to ask a question?
Do you guys want to talk about
let me ask the audience
how her cosmetics were, like, her entire store at the beginning was a setup.
Oh my God, it's so insane. Like, I could talk about that for the next 3 years, because what were they? We're moving to
cosmetics, y'all.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna move to cosmetics.
Okay. So cosmetics. That was a deliberate choice. Like
it's
malicious, even.
Okay, so let's just start off with the people that don't know. Haddie, first of all, released with... she had one set, so you can't customize that with anything. All of her recolors, the recolored heads, were first of all broken. Like, so they literally weren't changed at all. Not even the lipstick and ear piercing changes that we have now. So, already, like, not great, but at least that was a bug, right? And they were going to fix it, and they were going to recolor her hair. No, they changed the piercing color and the lipstick.
That was the dumbest shit ever.
So now we have one set. Can't customize that with anything. we have 3 heads that are basically the same except lipstick, which is such an insignificant change that like it might as well not be there. And like I don't understand. And the thing is, like, with other recolors of like, there's hardly any other survivor that has recolors like this. Like maybe Jane, but at least she has good outfits to make up for it. Haddie doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
Like she literally has no. She has the Amazon Prime one, which also is crazy because
technically she
green
has
rarities-
nothing because most of her outfits are locked behind limited time exclusivity. So like to me, they don't exist basically.
Literally,
If
like
the
any
average
new
player
players
can't
that just picked
access
up the
them.
game and like see Haddie in the
Yeah.
character selection, they're not gonna buy her because she doesn't have anything. All of her cosmetics have been either setups, sets, or locked behind an exclusivity wall, like either event or something like that.
Funny how they could recolor Victoria's hair, but not hers.
Dang.
I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe we could move on to how Hattie's treated differently to Vittorio.
Oh, before that, do you guys want to talk about like the Amazon Prime, the exclusive, the flipping one that's hidden in the files?
Okay.
That
There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about. So, I mean, first of all, she has her green rarities. There were supposed to be 2, and like, so one of them is just not there. That's just collecting dust in the files. Okay. I don't know why you haven't press release on that yet, but whatever. You know what? And the other one is like an exclusive. Like all of her other cosmetics, they're all exclusives. It's just like, it's so unfortunate when you really sit back and think about it because, like, dang, she has nothing. She can have one win.
8 months.
Literally.
Can you imagine?
It's about 9 months.
And she's like one of the most legendary characters in the lore, and she was just treated
Literally,
so bad.
she was.
Like, it's really
She was built up
one of
for
the
like
most
almost a
important.
year, and to just be thrown into the game so insignificantly and handled with so much poor care when they literally built up her character and built up a fan base around her for almost a year. Like what
2
were
years.
you? What are you doing? It's crazy.
Do you guys think that she was set up from the beginning?
Oh,
like,
definitely.
Well,
on
yes.
purpose?
Anytime you.
Well, if you I'm gonna shade my girl Michaela here. Michaela Reed, I love you, but like let's compare previous survivors. Let's see how Michaela is released. Michaela, perfectly fine. You know, she got all her outfits, and she still gets outfits to this day. But with Haddie, they made it their mission to like make this girl's life miserable.
Didn't give her a crumb. Didn't give her a crumb.
With
cosmetics,
too, like it's been almost a full year of just like it's been like, how many updates has it been since June? I think like,
how many collections have gone by that they couldn't put her in?
I think it's more than 12 right now.
One thing I think is really important is that
everyone that year,
because of how much
from 2022 to December,
make a
from
profit.
January 2022,
one at a time.
December 22 got an outfit that year. Everybody got an outfit that year except her. I really want to know why. Like Naveen said, they couldn't sneak her into one collection. And it's really weird because when new characters are added, they usually get a spotlight. They usually get like a little spotlight. Did I get removed? Hello?
You're still here.
Okay.
Sorry, I accidentally left.
It's so weird because every new character that gets added gets a little spotlight. Like with Michaela, she got like 3 outfits after her release. She got she was in 2 tomes. Vittorio got a tome straight out of the oven, basically. But Haddie has really gotten nothing, and like it's really confusing. Like, I
just
want to know what like the thought process was behind it, because it's not good.
One thing I
it
think
just doesn't make sense.
Do they think she's unmarketable? Because like that's not the case.
I think the thing is that she already has so little because everything she has is locked away. You can't
Mhm.
buy anything because
Literally.
there's nothing for people to buy. They don't see her making money because you can't.
Literally,
Uh-huh.
like you set her
Yeah.
up for failure, and then when she fails because you set her up for failure, you're like, oh well, I guess we'll just forget about
Yeah.
her then because she's a failure. You gotta help her.
But like, it's also weird because like if they think that she's gonna like underperform, I want to know like why they put so much faith into Vittorio then. Like if like
Literally,
I need to see Survivor stats charts, because like I need to see them Survivor
So-
stats pick rates.
So with
for
that,
Survivors.
should we move on to Vittorio's treatment compared to Haddie?
I think we should.
Okay. Oh God. So I think we can all agree Vittorio is a blatant thirst trap survivor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
What else would he be there for?
I think it's also kind of like the approach, because like I feel like I don't, personally, when Vittorio first came out, I think like a lot of us did like him as like a survivor and like thought he was like cool. But at the same time, it's also kind of like a sign of like what could have been done with like Haddie, and like the community's like response to her versus him. And I think that's like all kind of like indicative of how like people like their biases are towards certain characters.
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna read out Blossom's tweet because she's not on the space, but she said Michaela got several planned cosmetics still going, a planned tone within a year of release, character accurate perks, and Haddie got a setup after setup. And I totally agree.
Exactly. Like, and Michaela also got an event tome with a cosmetic for her, but she still got a cosmetic you could buy the patch after her release. So she was still making money for them, and that's why she's still getting stuff. But they didn't even give Haddie that.
Literally.
Set her up for failure. And it's just
And I mean, at least Michaela's event cosmetic was a completely custom one too, mind you. Haddie got a flipped hair cosmetic. I mean, come on now.
Hey.
Like they literally just flipped the head and put a mask
Zad's
on it, and
hair
that was
over.
it. Like, oh my
Would I
God.
be able to add something? I want to add it to the design bit, but I don't know if you guys saw what I said.
Sure. You could, yeah. You
So
could say
basically, I really liked how with Hattie's like body type, it wasn't like a typical, like Meg or like I don't know, Fung. Like it wasn't super like skinny. I think that was realistic.
Exactly.
But it hurts to see like her reception compared to Jane, and thinking about the reasons why people like Jane but they don't like Haddie. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just my point.
Yeah, I get that.
If you want to talk about that later, I don't know.
That's a very good point to bring up because, like, I mean, it is true. Like, the comparison differences are very, like,
night day.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I think when people say a lot of the time that they want characters that are different body types or not skinny, I think a lot of the time people want bigger characters that are like more palatable and more marketable. And I think people talk all about we want more body diversity until it's a body type that they don't necessarily find attractive.
Exactly.
And then it's a different tone.
Saying.
Because, like, I noticed that a lot with Jane, it's more about, like, objectifying her. But I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, because
like, there's, like, a weird side to Hattie. Like, you don't see that treatment towards Hattie because, I don't know. I don't know if I'd like to even see that, but, yeah.
Jane is thicker, but it's that thicker body type that's more marketable to a general audience. She has a slimmer waist and wider hips and a wider bust. It's like an hourglass shape. It's not necessarily like fat in areas that people necessarily would be like finding undesirable. Like it's that kind of like snatched, like thick in all the right places, kind of like there's like it's thick, but there's not necessarily anything people like get turned off from, you know.
Yeah.
And like adding on to what you said about how people ask for plus size characters in video games, but then like when they aren't the plus size that they want, or like they don't find desirable, then they get turned off by it or whatever. It's a thing of like, if this is how plus size characters are treated in the game, then are they going to keep doing them?
That also goes into the wait, no, never mind.
Exactly, and I think
like this is how plus size characters are treated in the game.
I think
like, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Sorry. I think that sort of connects to Vittorio a bit, because I think a lot of the reason for the big success of characters like Vittorio and Felix and David is that these are conventionally attractive body types that you can market to a large group of people. They're all going to meme about it. They're all going to thirst over it. You know, like, no matter what you do with this character, you have at least some audience that's going to be like, oh my god, this character is so hot. And that kind of thinking is like, okay, whatever, like, that doesn't make the character inherently bad. But when you do that over and over again and it's safe so that people will find this, it applies to Trickster too, to an extent, where you make characters a certain body type so people will find it attractive. There's not anything wrong with those body types that they have, but it leads to a lack of diversity between characters.
Exactly.
And my thing is, oh, sorry, my bad.
No, you're fine. It was
I was gonna say that DBD. Oh my god, sorry. I'll just mute.
No, you're
now.
fine. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I keep interjecting. You continue.
I was gonna say that and it's weird because DBD acknowledges like shirtless Felix, because that was like a thing for a while, right? Like shirtless Felix, shirtless whoever. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Like they like were real. Like Behavior was really like down with that, right? Like shirtless Felix. But then when it comes like us requesting like for Haddie like content, cosmetics, really whatever, it's turning into, oh, X person is harassing Dev because of Haddie cosmetics or whatever. It's just really weird to see the difference in like, oh my god, how they receive that.
Oh,
that was a boom.
Someone just leveled up.
Bang,
oh
that's
god.
a boom.
To add on to what you said, I think that a big thing is like Behavior is really pick and choosy about what they choose to respond to, both positively and negatively. Like, they'll joke around about shirtless Felix and stuff, but they won't crack down on like negative comments about their female characters being objectified or like racist comments toward Haddie.
Exactly. And I mean that also leads into my thing. It has always been weird to me of the response, not like the community and honestly BHVR, the response to asking for a shirtless cosmetic for Felix versus the response to asking for customization, the bare minimum for Haddie basically, which is proper rep and customization options, because she has almost zero.
And we never see this type of like hateful reaction towards like, oh, let's give cosmetics to Jeff or like cosmetics to Quentin, you know, etc., etc.
Exactly.
So like, why is double
because there's
standard?
like whole salvagers probably dedicated to like Quentin getting cosmetics or insert character here getting cosmetics. But when it's Haddie, it's harassment. It's no one gives a fuck. Haddie's ugly. That type of stuff, you know.
You guys are just annoying. Like it's crazy because you'd never saw this response to shirtless Felix. Like, why is it different?
I'm
like, I don't understand why.
Yeah, I'm more like curious to see like what their like future plan is with Haddie, because it's like I know like the devs were saying like how a lot of like the tomes and everything and cosmetics, they're all planning like months ahead, but right. But then at the same time, it's like, for example, with like the Yunjin cosmetic for winter, and like that was added last minute. So it's like, if that's capable of adding last minute, you know,
why
does that mean like there's really Haddie? Yeah, like,
Same goes for Vittorio, because Haddie came out first. Yet there was already a tome and cosmetics planned out for him.
Exactly. Like, oh my
god. And also that Yunjin thing, you know, like with the product, I don't know if she's project or project manager. She said like after like countless days of like community managers bickering or like begging me to add this Yunjin outfit to the collection. That really left like a bitter, like a sour taste. Like it just, what's the word?
Like
It doesn't
so
It just
rub
really
you the
left me
it's
wrong
the
way.
confused
thing
because
of
like
it's the thing of like
because
they
we were like
proved. Sorry.
yeah, because like we were the same people who were asking for that Yunjin cosmetic, you know. So like.
So they proved that they can add a cosmetic last second for fan demand. Why can't they do that for Haddie? Let
The
me ask
thing
the
I want to
audience.
point out, is, so if cosmetics and whatnot are planned way beforehand, why wasn't anything planned for Haddie?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly, because
Like
you can't
so
predict
did
if
they
a
just think
character's
she
not
was
going
going
to
to be
sell.
unmarketable from the jump?
One
Like,
thing I wanted to say was, since they said it was all planned in advance and they planned nothing for Haddie, but they planned all this for Vittorio, I think that a lot of it is that they're aware that she has, a unique body type in the game where she's not like super unrealistically skinny, and she's also, a woman of color, and she has a lot of things that a lot of straight white men who play the game will
I also feel
not
like
like.
this also plays with Feng Min, the whole that she's easy to fetishize. Like Feng Min is like constantly fetishized as well. So I think that's why she also gets so many cosmetics. As much as I love her, that is the truth, sadly.
Exactly. Like, Behavior is very aware of the way their community acts, and they know it can sell. That's why whenever they made a white man, they were able to pile all this content together, like, within a short time span for him, because they knew he was going to sell. And it's the same with a lot of their other characters.
They literally used his marketing. His marketing was like Tinder. Like they literally like used a Tinder template and was like, Vittoria is the new survivor. Would you swipe right? Like,
I remember that.
Can you be serious for a minute?
It's still so fishy to me how they made Jonah a war criminal. Like it's very fishy to me. Like something terrible is going off in those damn offices.
Oh my god, who
Meow.
Meow spray, stop with the fucking boom. It's not working.
The thing I want to say about Jonah is I don't think they were like trying to make him a war criminal. They tried to like make him a hero, but they just didn't have people who were proficient enough in world politics to help write that lore. They just wrote it.
That's
like I'm sorry, but behavior storytelling
too
sucks.
big of a company for that.
Behavior storytelling just sucks. I'm sorry.
I think
Like I've never had any interest in the tomes because I just generally do not like the writing to it.
But I feel like even if you didn't read the tomes, Haddie was like a household name almost. Like if you play the game, you knew she existed.
Exactly.
Also, around like the whole Michaela relaunch, like they said we were gonna get like a mystic, and everyone like jumped to Haddie Kaur. Like,
yeah, oh my god, I remember that was a whole thing. It was like, okay, Haddie Kaur is finally coming, and then it was Michaela. She was a barista who blessed coffee beans. It was
where do we go from here?
I think speaking about the like whole thing with them miswriting Jonah is that I think at Behavior, their writing team writes a lot of characters that they personally don't have anyone like experienced enough with like the culture or situations they're writing about, like
exactly
Jonah's CIA thing, and then Hattie's lore being horribly mishandled in the tone to character jump. I think that there's probably a lack of diversity or something, but it just, you can tell that they probably have trouble connecting with the characters they write if they're not a certain way. And I feel like that really translates into how they're received.
I'm saying I think that's a big issue with characters like Vittorio and Haddie not Vittorio, Jonah and Haddie specifically. Because we've seen Haddie had a lot of inconsistencies with the way that they represented her culture, and Jonah's lore was Jonah's lore. We all know how that went.
But like,
also,
aren't most behavior workers white?
I could not tell you that. Also, nurses lore.
Because I'm sorry, but I feel like white people should not be writing about like people of color's cultures and all that. Especially me as a Latino man, I don't want a white person writing my culture wrong.
it makes it apparent that they're trying their best, but sufficient research isn't being put in. It doesn't seem ill-intentioned. It just seems like not. I don't want to say incompetent because that's
Badly
kind of
mishandled.
It
mean.
feels lazy. That's what it
It
feels like.
feels a little
It
lazy.
does.
Like they googled like Indian motifs and like slapped it on Haddie instead of having someone
Exactly.
from that culture in the office like directing how this character was done. Which if
Exactly.
they just put that extra little bit of care in, it would make these characters first of all feel more real because it would be more consistent with their culture and just feel more authentic, just like resonate with more people if you have that like in the writers room.
Exactly. And like it's like they're too big of a company. This is one of the like most popular games in the world. You're too big of a company to not be doing that. Like you absolutely have the resources available to do that. You need to put in that effort if you're going to properly represent these characters.
Especially when they have so many characters in the game that are people of color.
Exactly.
I want to point out how much care and effort was put into the all kill chapter, but for like getting everything right with that, but they didn't do that for other chapters, and it shows.
It
I think
like they
this.
literally had a whole K-pop team like doing like they did their research on that chapter, but they couldn't do the same for Hattie's. And
I
like
think
it was an anniversary chapter too, so it's supposed to be a special one.
And it's not like they can't do it, it's just they didn't. Like, why not?
Exactly. And
I
that
think
comes off as very lazy. Sorry.
no, sorry, I keep jumping because I thought you were done. But I think another thing is the only other time that we saw that care and effort put in was whenever they partnered up with an LGBT organization to help write David's tome. It feels like whenever it feels like for some characters they're willing to go the extra mile to have that level of attention to detail and respect, but for some they just kind of throw it together and don't really care. Like Jonah's cultural identity is a backdrop, it's not the focus of his character, and it's barely mentioned.
Yeah, well, yes.
Oh, now everyone want to talk. Now everyone's
I was so scared of speaking over somebody that I muted.
Yeah, I think everyone just got scared.
But yeah.
Did you want to say something, Zaid?
I think it's just also I think there is an interesting pattern where these characters that behavior puts more research behind and more care into, first of all, are typically more conventionally attractive, as we can see very clearly with Vittorio. You can say that it wasn't marketed for him to be attractive all you want, but literally as soon as he came out, there were memes on the official behavior social media about him being attractive. So there's that. Trickster also, there's a lot of memes about Trickster being attractive, which is like fine. No one's saying we can't have attractive characters, but there's also a pattern with these characters being either white or very pale skinned. Like I
I
cannot
was
think of
gonna
a
say that.
character in DBD
AKA marketable.
that yeah, more marketable. I can't think of a character in DBD that is darker skin that gets that sort of like Felix, David, Vittorio, Trickster treatment. If anyone can think of one, you tell me, but I sure can't. And it doesn't seem like malice from behavior, but it leads you to think when behavior doesn't put that extra mile in to go out of their way to push diversity through these characters, it ends up speaking more with the actions than it does with anything they can say out loud. Like they can try to implement these diverse characters, but they need to make more of an effort of putting them in the forefront and not just letting the numbers decide. Because when you let the numbers decide and white people are majority, it's just gonna fall like that. Like you have to boost them up.
Exactly. Literally put into words so perfectly. Thank God for Zaid.
And
I think
sorry.
I was gonna say I think another thing is that I feel like behavior with a very I feel like they have a very white dev team because they have a pattern of like racially insensitive things as well. Like they give white characters dreads very frequently, despite people being very upset about it.
The Meg Kaner is still being in the game.
Jeff, recently, I cannot believe they released Jeff with
Oh my God.
dreads so recently.
That was
What
literally
the fuck?
in like 2022. Like, what were they thinking?
Like, who is actually in that cosmetics office? Like, what?
I'm saying.
What's on that? Like, what's on that mood board? Like, what's on the what?
It doesn't even seem like malice. It just seems like
Blatant
like
ignorance,
ignorance.
and like just
Yes, I
and
think
like
they
you
need
can't be doing that, being such a huge company and such a huge name in the gaming industry. You can't be doing stuff like that because
exactly.
that's setting such a bad example.
I think they need like maybe some sort of maybe this sounds a little corny, but maybe some sort of like just someone who before any content comes out checks and sees how is this going to be received amongst a
Right.
non-white audience and be like,
They should
okay,
just have
how do
more
they not
people
check out
of
have
the
color
that
in
though?
that damn office. They should just have more people of color in that
They
damn
need to
office.
diversify. That's
I
all.
agree. I
I'm
agree.
saying.
But
And it's
also
really
with
sad that it
things
has to
that
come to that.
aren't necessarily maybe race or culture related, like Nurse's Lore. When Nurse's Lore dropped, it got very negative reception for the way that it treated mental health and the way that it was discussed in the story. Just if you have someone on some team that's going to check, hey, you might have thought while you're writing this that this was well represented, but we need to check how this is going to be received. Like, we need to think, how is an audience going to read this? What will they think while they're reading this?
Exactly.
And maybe we won't have these controversies in the first place.
It could be
That's
so
what
easily avoided.
they need to hire you at this point.
Oh, well, I'm not expert, but I'm sure someone in Canada is.
Well, I don't think you have to be an expert to figure out that. Like, you need to background check. Well, not background check, but you need
We
to
need
check the
Naveen.
stuff
We need
before you
Naveen
put it
in
out.
behavior
I'm
officers.
We need
saying.
No,
Naveen
true.
and Michael. We need Naveen and Michael. We need to like get that out there. Get them hired.
Naveen, Michael, and Cubby. We need them in them damn
Yes.
offices.
Why
And it's
Cubby
not
in
like
it?
you need a fucking rocket scientist
Because
to
Cubby in
figure out.
Canada. Because Cubby in Canada. That's why.
So true.
It's just and it's like, why are we this far in the game? And I feel like things that are so obvious as to like why it might be offensive to someone have been in the game for so long. Why did we have an entire big deal about cosmetic reworks and changing cosmetics, and a white character with cornrows got left in the game? Why was that not
I
touched
know.
at all?
Like, it does not take a
That's
rocket
something.
scientist to figure out there's something wrong with that.
They could just silently replace the hairstyle and be like, oh, we updated the model, and make it like a complex braid style. Maybe that's common in like a European culture, and it might be one of
Exactly.
Meg's best heads. Just change it, remodel it. Just be like, hey, we saw feedback about this design and we decided to change it, and just make it not cornrows. Make it a different style of braids. It seems like such a simple solution to me.
Like,
Another thing I think is really important to note is that whenever there are these racially insensitive things that they put in the game, and you can tell that the backlash isn't really important to them until it's coming to them from a white audience. Like, they literally released Leatherface with a blackface cosmetic that remained in the game for years until there was a massive push from so many people to get it removed.
And it's like, why would you? What would have gone through your head to be like, yeah,
Like,
seems all right? Like,
oh, like, what the
too
fuck?
too big of a company to be doing stuff like that. You like how, and these mistakes keep happening too. It's not like they made a fuck up and they corrected it. These mistakes keep on happening. Like, they do not learn their lesson.
and it just speaks. It makes like silent points about who is in the office, because like I've seen a lot of people who play DBD and are white who would see Jeff with dreads or another white character with dreads or Meg with cornrows and not know what the issue is with that. Maybe not out of malice, but maybe just out of ignorance or not knowing like the cultural importance of these things. It doesn't seem like malice. It's just like, okay, who's in the office that you don't have anyone being like, hey, like there's an issue with this. Like, no one in the office saw an issue with this. Maybe speaks to
a diversity issue.
Exactly, like who is in the office, like approving these changes and stuff.
It's definitely a diversity issue. I mean, they've let so much time go by. Like since the anniversary chapter, it was like such a big moment. I was so excited getting a South Asian representation survivor, but it's been like 10 months and nothing. There's been so many collections, cosmetic collections they could have put her in, and they've just like completely neglected her.
And it's like purposeful too, because they know that they like put her out there to flop, and there have been so many opportunities for them to lift her back up, and they just chose not to. They just were like, no, like let's just keep giving cosmetics to the same people, which is a complete different thing.
Exactly.
Like, instead of giving them to someone who people actually want her to have cosmetics, and they're just
let's take her headpiece and just flip it 180.
Like that's oh my god.
And I think there's a general issue with how behavior maybe I don't know. I don't work at behavior, so I don't know how this is decided. This is like hypothetical, but I think there's maybe an issue with the way behavior decides which characters get attention, because I feel like they choose a lot of characters that have already got attention on launch, which this doesn't apply to Vittorio because clearly it is money, but clearly he had cosmetics planned from the start. But I think they just like to like double down on certain characters, like Feng Min, for example. I have no issue with Feng Min, but she gets cosmetics an absurd amount. So do
She
characters
literally
like
got
Kate.
4 cosmetics in like less than a week.
Exactly. Characters like Kate or Meg, now Michaela and Vittorio, Felix to an extent also, get cosmetics much more frequently based on player number. But when you think about it, survivors are cosmetic characters. The difference between them is cosmetic only. If you give characters that are less played good cosmetics, people will play them. I have seen I've seen good outfits for characters that don't get good outfits a lot come out, and then people be like, oh well, I have to play them now, I want to use this outfit. People will buy these characters if you put more care and more attention into them, instead of giving more attention to characters that already have that attention. If you just say, if you dumped a really good outfit for Haddie, I'm sure some people will be like, oh my god, that looks so cool, I'm gonna buy Haddie and play this, even if they're gonna buy her with shards. They'll be like, I'll save up some shards, get Haddie and get this outfit, it looks cool. Like, it's just so blatant to me.
So perfectly said, Zayd. Honestly, like,
seriously,
thank you.
Round of
they need to let the fan base make the cosmetics and stop the community contest altogether. Just have the community make the cosmetics all year round because they never flop.
Like,
to add on to what Zayd said, I think it's absolutely that, like, put yourself in a new player's shoes. Like, you just bought this game today. There's an overwhelming amount of characters. Like, there's over $100 worth of DLC. So whenever you're looking at purchases, you want to make ones that matter. And if you go and you look at every character in the store, and then you see Haddie only has like 4 outfits. She has no greens. She has 3 yellows, which change pretty much nothing. And 1 set you can't mix and match. How is that appealing to anyone to want to purchase? Like, and then you stack that on top of perks that don't really reflect her as a character. It just means that it feels like there's no love put into her. It feels like she's less important.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I don't know how she doesn't have love put into her like that, because she was built up from the tones. Like, I'm sorry I keep repeating this, but it's so, like, why would you build her up, build this amazing badass character up from the tomes for almost a year, and then just treat her like that when she gets in game? Like, what do you mean the monster fighter doesn't get a killer stun perk? What do you mean Jonah the mathematician gets a boon over the literal supernatural character? That doesn't make a lick of sense.
I don't know. I wanna add on a little bit to the perk thing, because I think I don't remember what YouTuber brought up, but the point is people mention that when you're looking at Haddie from like a perk and like purchase perspective, her perks, besides maybe residual manifest, it's not really like, appealing. Like, people see like maybe Yunjin and they see Smash Hit, they're like, oh, that's maybe a perk I'll use often. Like, I don't know, David with Dead Hard. When you look at Haddie, there's no like standout perk or like anything when you like that. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. I'm sorry.
No,
Like,
I get what you're trying to say.
They just had I get what you're trying to say. I feel like you're trying to say they had all this potential, even like what Michael was saying, like about the lore, that she's like the most lore heavy character. They just had so much potential to make her so well rounded as a character in lore, cosmetics, perks, like all of that, and they just really they just neglected her like all the way
Exactly.
around.
They truly dropped the ball. One of the biggest ball drops in his.
One of the biggest
Okay.
history
Like, Haddie,
drops.
Let's ignore that
like
word.
again, Haddie can have so many good cosmetics. Like, she is the it girl for fucking DVD. She could have
I'm
so many good cosmetics.
saying.
It's just they don't want to try.
And I
Now,
think
if they added Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I bet you she'd have all the cosmetics.
She's
I was about to
literally a
chime in
vampire
with
slayer.
like, sorry, I was going to say one other thing I think is really important is that like from a lore perspective, Hattie's very appealing. Like, strong women have been the focus of horror as a genre for so long. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and other like Final Girls as a trope.
Laurie
Like
Strode, don't get Michael started.
Oh, sorry.
It's just when you put it on paper, you have a character that is important to the story, the central storyline. Dead by Daylight has very loose lore. If you read the tomes, I know a lot of people don't, but I try to like actually keep up with the tomes and like read the Observer tomes, even though some of them are a little funky. Like, I try to keep up. DVD has pretty loose lore. This entire last saga has followed like a samurai who is going through the entity's realm, chopping down a giant tentacle creature to rescue a horse. Like, it's very out there. There's not a very strong like central plot line. One of the only central plot lines that has stayed consistent is Haddie.
Exactly.
I don't remember if it was the tome before or this one, but she's like mentioned not by her name but by Haley, or like one of the like multiverse versions of Haddie. She's one of the only consistent threads in the lore. On paper, she's a monster hunter. She has scars all over her body. Where are those scars from? We read in the tomes she fights a creature in a cave with a bunch of teeth and a bunch of eyes. Like, she's going around the world. She's getting hunted down by the military. Like, she interviews this woman and she gets like shot right in front of her, and like she has to escape like a horde of gunmen like trying to kill her. She's literally a target of like world conspiracy, Illuminati, government
Insane.
shit. How do you get this character on paper and she gets completely ignored in favor of a random guy who wanted some scroll, which we're not sure is lore important or not, from like super old Italy, and a barista who tells scary stories for a living? How does this character, who you have literally had run from a fucking New World Order giant world cult conspiracy, not get any attention?
I'm saying, like, how is the fucking 1860s Fade character getting more attention than this? Like, oh my god, I literally just cannot wrap my head around that decision. That's so
like, who
insane
gives
to
a
me.
fuck about that fossil? In all honesty,
I'm sorry, but I kind of don't want Saku from the tomes to come to the game because I feel like they'll do the same that they did with Haddie, and they just fuck her up.
I mean, honestly, she seems like a great character, but it would be one of the most heartbreaking things in history if I saw a tome character get actually like well integrated into the game when in comparison to Haddie. And I'd be like, oh my god, like,
Now what everyone fucking crying.
Should we go back to the agenda? Do you guys want to talk
Yes.
about the racial biases in the community?
Yes.
I just think it's
yes.
so weird when people say Haddie doesn't get like cosmetics because she's ugly, quotation marks. But Nia got so many cosmetics back when before her facelift. I don't get it.
Literally, she was so ugly that people called her the entity, and she still got consistent cosmetics. So even if Haddie was ugly, which she is not, she should still get cosmetics. That shouldn't matter.
the community and both behavior devs have a racial bias. Like, if any character is not pale as fuck, they're probably not gonna get ever cosmetics. Example, Haddie.
I mean, it really makes it seem like that. Remember when they did the who got the least amount of cosmetics recently, and it was Zarina, Elodie, and Haddie. That's weird.
Not a coincidence.
All three of them are women
That's
of color who are not pale, which is very fishy.
And none of them have a tome. None of them have a tome.
Mm-hmm.
And Vittorio just got one, and he's been out for less than, what, 3 months? 4 months?
I'm so tired of that man. I need him shot and eliminated.
Like, it's wild to me. Like, I don't know. It's not confirmed that Vittoria was going to be popular on release. Like, they don't have, like, a mystic. They don't have Michaela Reed in the flesh and blood to tell them Vittoria just kind of will be a popular character. Yet they set up Haddie from the get-go. I don't know.
Vittoria.
It's racism. It's racism.
It's just a reminder to be professional and respectful in this chat.
Well, yes.
I think also when we say that the treatment of these characters is racist, I think a lot of people interpret that as behaviors being intentionally malicious. I don't think anyone is saying behavior sitting in the office thinking, "Mwahahaha, let's like purposely mistreat these characters of color." It just speaks to how probably predominantly white workplace or creative team might inadvertently ignore these characters, like probably not on purpose, but regardless, it is still racism to have these patterns and to not take a step back and examine that within the creative team. Like, it doesn't have to be on purpose to be racist. But so, like, I don't think anyone's necessarily saying behavior is like an evil racist company. When we say this treatment is racist, we're saying that there is the end result of this behavior is favoring one race over another, whether it is intentional or not.
Exactly. Like, I think one thing a lot of people forget is that racism isn't always something loud, like the behavior devs outright going, we're not going to give cosmetics to Haddie because she's Indian. It's a lot of the time it's a subconscious bias that manifests itself in a lot of ways. Racism is always loud. Racism can be a bunch of small aggressions that add up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm scared to speak. Every time I go silent, I get scared to speak because I'm like, someone else is going to start talking at the same time.
Right, like I'm scared to interject with somebody.
It's also I don't know. I had to like get up for a little bit, so I don't know if I missed this discussion. You guys might have already went over this, but it's also with things with people talking about Haddie's face. When we talk about Haddie has a issue with her visual design, no one is talking about her face or her body. And people are saying, oh, you can't be such and such to a fictional character. It's not real. Regardless, if you are looking at specific features in someone's face that are more common in one ethnicity than another and saying these features are ugly, whether you know it or not, that is a racist statement. If you are looking at an Indian character and you are saying the shape of her nose is ugly, you need to step back and think about that statement. Like, you need to hear what you're saying. You might be thinking in your head, I'm just saying what I'm seeing, but it's just like a sensitivity thing and an ignorance thing. You need to step back and examine also, is there an influence here? Like, obviously mostly everyone in the entire world is influenced, whether they like it or not, by Eurocentric beauty standards. You might not even realize it, but you have been brought up in a world where most of the media you consume, Eurocentric beauty standards are the center. You need to just take a step back and examine. I think it's just closed-mindedness. Like, there's more things in the world that can be beautiful than what you think is beautiful.
So, like, I don't know how many times I can say that's so well said, but it truly was.
A round of applause.
I'm sorry. Every time there's like an awkward silence or like an awkward reaction, I think about like, because like I know behavior employees probably monitor Gowonite to an extent. Like I don't think they're like stalking Gowonite's Twitter page, but they've seen the thread. Clearly they're like aware
Right.
of Gowonite. So I think about them like listening to the recording of this space. Like I'm imagining them like sitting around with this recording in the middle of the table.
We are not writers' scripts, but I mean,
They-
who's spilling though?
They have like a pen and paper out. They're taking notes.
Who's
Oh, it's
driving the
bad.
bus?
I mean, I'd hope so, to be honest.
Yeah, no, they need to
Yeah,
be
take
taking
those
notes for
notes
sure.
and think about what you've done.
And Ramsey's Cole artwork is like projected on like a big slider. It's like a big like
As it
college
should.
like
Oh my god,
lecture
do you know like
hall.
those skyscrapers in like Las Vegas where they'll like display something on it? Imagine
Yeah.
somehow.
Yes, we need that
I'm
for
just
Ramsey.
imagining that, like one of those skyscrapers or buildings, just with like Ramsey's Cult art on it.
I should have paid
Right.
for a
Exactly.
slot in Times Square to advertise the space.
Oh my god. Well, is there anything else needs to be touched on?
I had one more small point to make, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think is that behavior is always making sure they're catering to an audience they think is profitable. And slowly we've seen more of a shift in game towards them being more profit focused. Like Vittorio was absolutely designed with selling things in mind. And we've started getting limited time cosmetic collections, engaging in fear of missing out. And there's so much that they're doing that shows that they're trying to make as much money as possible right now. And whether that's a bad thing is up to you as the player. But one thing is that it shows that they didn't have any faith in Haddie from the beginning. Because if they saw her as profitable at any point, they would have given her the same type of treatment they gave Vittorio.
Because how has Dredge gotten multiple cosmetics since release, but not Haddie, and they came out at the same time? It seems like
And mind
Haddie
you,
was
they're
almost an
literally
afterthought.
connected.
They are connected.
Like,
they are the only original characters to be connected, like in-game text.
Like, oh my god, it's besides Jiwoon and Yunjin, of course, but like it's a thing of like I don't like it's such a missed opportunity to not have the monster hunter that was hunting the monster that came with her in the chapter, not have them get skins together. Like that's it's such a missed opportunity.
And I think a lot of it is her physical design, like her visual design just doesn't really scream Monster Hunter. Like I don't know anyone who would scroll past this character in a character selection and be like, this character stands out. She looks like she's fighting monsters for a living. Like I have not seen like unless you read the lore specifically. And how do we get in the game? If you read her lore, she's not as explicitly like action focused as she is in the tomes. So at some point, if you haven't read the tomes, you wouldn't even really know that this character is like not like, oh, she explores like abandoned locations. She is literally going places and fighting monsters that would like change how people see the world. There are people trying to kill her for exposing the existence of supernatural things, and you would never know that from looking at her. I think that's such a like glaring issue. Like how did you like she has the EMF thing, the little like ghost like recorder thing that she takes out in her lobby animation, but that's really it. And that seems more like spooky like Ghost Hunter than someone who is literally throwing punches at a demon. Also,
exactly.
I think there is an issue in behavior. Now, this is no shade to the creative team. We love the behavior creative team. They've pushed out a lot of designs. I think generally they're very underappreciated. I think a lot of people love to hate on the behavior creative team, but we forget how many iconic designs they have dropped and the work that goes into these cosmetics, like even if we view them as lazy, like creating a cosmetic is still hard work, but that doesn't exempt it from criticism. I think there is an issue in behavior with making creative cosmetics for more masculine leaning characters. Hattie's style isn't like exactly masculine, but it's definitely, I would say, the most masculine of the female character roster. All of the other female characters, I would say, dress much more feminine than her. And if you look at male survivors, even, like, also, there's a stereotype with male survivors where the cosmetics that they get aren't super creative. Like, I'm not saying that they're bad. Like, this is no shade to the behavior creative team, but it's a lot of the same pants slash jeans, jacket, shirt combo. Like, it doesn't really get as creative as they get with the female characters, which might say something about men and women's fashion in real life in general. But maybe they don't know what to do with Haddie because they're not putting a specific effort and being more creative with characters that have dress styles that aren't as explicitly feminine. And I think that's a little dangerous because when you have female characters that you make not as explicitly feminine and then you kind of ignore them based on not being able to create anything off of them being feminine, I think that can create a sort of unintentional standard there, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that thoroughly, but like characters that like Michaela or Kate or Fung and Nia, they dress more like they can wear like super short shorts and like crop tops and like trendy like cute little things that like people would say is like aesthetic, and it's like easier to make cosmetics for them than when you look at a character like Haddie who's not going to dress as like mainstream aesthetically pleasing. But also, like, again, the character is a monster hunter. Just lean fully into that. We can see with the Waterfront Massacre outfit, she literally has a monster on her back. Lean more into stuff like that and people will love it. Like, I promise you, like, just have faith in this character and people will love her.
I completely agree. And another thing I think is that even in her default design, you can see that the creative team wasn't really representing aspects of her character very well. Like you said earlier, with just her ghost microphone being the only mild thing related to her as a character. Like, she doesn't have any holsters or stakes or anything that would really scream out that, like, she's going out there and doing things. She's just wearing Skechers.
It honestly just seems to me like the only person who cared about Hattie's character was like the person who wrote her, and then like everybody else who worked on her wasn't really interested in her like at all.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we're gonna make an original anniversary chapter, which I kind of have a theory that maybe Hattie and Dredge wasn't originally going to be anniversary, and that was like a last minute decision because a lot of stuff with them on release, like their anniversary cosmetics, if you look in the trailer, it says that they're like not final. So I'm not, this isn't anything confirmed, but there were also rumors that the Ringu chapter was originally supposed to be the anniversary. I don't remember if someone in DB League says that. I might be misremembering, but I believe there was a switch around of the chapter order. So wait, I forgot where I was going with this. I'm so sorry.
You can also just kind of tell that they didn't really care about her as like a release because during the anniversary stream when they like announced her, they kind of just like brushed over her. They were like, "Oh, she's a character from the tomes and she's going to be added. She hunts monsters," and that was it. Like they just stopped talking about her after that.
Exactly. They
Yeah,
seem very
they
excited
did.
about Dredge, and then when they get to Hattie, they're kind of just like, "Oh, she was in the tomes a little bit." Blah 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 blah. It seems like they really wanted to make Dredge because Dredge is very creative. Dredge is a very cool killer. We've never had a killer like that that's like not a person at all. It's like an amorphous blob. It could be literally anything, which is shown through the cosmetics, which are very creative. It seems like they wanted to do Dredge in the Garden of Joy, and then Hattie was just kind of like, oh, we need a survivor. Just we have this character in the tomes, just like throw her in there. Like, that's what it feels
It's
like.
almost like they assumed because we read the tomes that we already know who she is, so they just glazed right over her and then went on to Dredge.
Exactly, which they were relying on her hype and reputation and lacked the actual creative input, which is, I don't know. I don't want to say lazy, but it seems kind of like there just wasn't as much effort put into her
It
as
was
there
like
was
they
in her
were
other.
just doing fan service.
Yeah, which often fan service can be a bit lazy because they know if they can rely on the reputation of these characters, they won't have to put as much into like actually giving the characters substance. But as we can see, that didn't really go over well with Haddie, and that's why we're where we are right now.
Do you guys think that her leak, her leak like months before she was released, do you think that had a role to play in them deciding that she's not profitable?
Yes, and I have specific memories for when she was leaked. When she was leaked, there was a horde of people under DBD Leaks' replies saying, "Oh, she just looks like an ugly modded Nia. This looks like an edit to a Survivor. This can't be real." Stuff like that. I don't know, but that's kind of maybe someone saw that from the dev team or creative team was like, "Oh, I don't know."
I think also leaks in general. I know, like it's kind of fun to see something ahead of time, but also I think that kills a lot of hype leading up to a character release. And also I think that whenever you put a lot of hard work into something and a lot of time and a lot of care, and especially with the Portrait of a Murder chapter, they put a lot of effort into those teasers with that original artwork, the original ink portraits with the art like portfolio website for Carmina, but she was leaked beforehand. And I think when these things are just said blatantly and shown blatantly ahead of time, first of all, they're shown in a light and in a way that the creators might not necessarily want them seeing them, and this isn't how they want them debuted. And I think to see your hard work like that just shown in a way that you didn't consent to can feel very how do I say this, like just not motivating. It can feel very disappointing to be like, oh well, now they've already seen it. It can feel unmotivating.
Literally, and it's like when the artist chapter. Actually, no, that's wrong. Was the artist chapter leaked? I'm sorry.
That Zayd literally just said it was leaked.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. But yeah, like, cause like they had obviously had so many. Yeah. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm stupid. But anyway, they had so many cool advertisements leading up to the like Portrait of a Murder chapter. They were supposed to like keep it secret because they had paintings and everything that was supposed to hint towards Carmina being a painter and everything, and it just got ruined because it was leaked.
And that was so cool. And there were people, and I'm sorry if you were one of these people. No shade to you. Like, I'm not trying to like call anyone out specifically, but there were people in the replies of behavior tweets like posting the leak, and they had to be like, "Hey, even if you might have seen this, some people still want to follow the clues and follow the teasers because." Like, do y'all remember Pinhead's release? I feel like everyone figuring out what it was and following the clues is fun. It's a community thing. When you just drop it out there like that, it kind of spoils the fun a little bit, and I'm sure behavior is disappointed in that.
Exactly, because with
Exactly.
Pinhead, people thought it was going to be Five Nights at Freddy's, and that was cool to see. Like, oh, is it going to be Pinhead or Hellraiser or whatever, or is it going to be FNAF? Like, that was interesting to see.
I
That
think
was like
that
some of the funnest times of Dead by Daylight, to be honest. Like refreshing the page each time and looking for the number in every post. Like that was so fun.
Even today, I think, like, okay, maybe this is just me being dumb, and I know Gojira was trolling, so, and this was me falling for the troll because I was like really hopeful, so this was me setting myself up. But waiting, not knowing what, we don't know what the next chapter is at all. We have absolutely no clue. Waiting for them to drop a teaser or like hint at what it is really exciting.
Exactly.
And also, I feel like for the dev team, it's really fun for them too because they've worked really hard on something and then they get to hint at it and have people speculate and they get to have a big payoff where everyone sees what they've worked super hard on. And
Exactly.
it's really refreshing for them, I think, because it's good to have people excited about something you've made. And whenever something gets leaked, it makes it a lot harder to take pride in your work because people are going to see it in like a light that you don't want it seen in.
Exactly. And then they criticize it in a way that it's like, well, if it was presented the way they wanted it presented, maybe they wouldn't be getting these critiques. Like, personally, I remember when I saw the artist leak, I was like really not impressed with her design. And she's one of my favorite characters now, but when she leaked and it was like a shitty Blender screenshot, I was like, what is this design? This looks like so weird. Like I don't understand what's going on here. And if they had just released her normally and I hadn't seen that leak, I would have liked her much more on debut. It just shows like when you have these things shown in a way they don't want to, it's not going to be received the same way. And also like if you're a creator, if you've ever like made something, you know it's like a really great feeling when people are excited for what you're creating. Like that's a great feeling, and having that spoiled I'm sure can be very unmotivating, which isn't an excuse to ignore Haddie, but I can see why that would be a component in her not getting as much care.
I don't think it's an excuse, but I could definitely see it being a factor because with Haddie, so many big reveals got leaked all at once. Like they had so many things lined up that I'm sure they were very excited. They got a hold of Resident Evil for a second license, which I'm sure they knew was going to make people happy. Like they got so much together and then all got leaked at once. So like they just had to work for months without really caring about anything.
Because we knew about Haddie pretty early. Like we had like a screenshot of Garden of Joy. We had just in full on models of both Dredge and Haddie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome, Jane Romero. Round of applause.
Woo!
Woo!
So
Okay, I noticed that. Sorry, I noticed that from PC the audio was delayed, and I was speaking from a mobile and listening from PC, so the audio was completely delayed. Hello, everyone.
Sorry to interject. Something that I wanted to add was that wasn't it? Once again, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it true that some person that didn't like Haddie and didn't like people speaking out about how he wanted better treatment for Haddie, didn't they make a burner account posing as a Haddie fan and then sent death threats to people? Or am I wrong? Because I remember that very vividly.
I never knew that.
That was I think are you referring to DBD leaks where people were sending death threats to Mass? I think people were sending racist remarks and death threats to Moss, and they were specifically saying like XOXO like from Twitter, and we didn't know anything about it. And some of the DBD leaks mods were going on Twitter and being like, hey, why are you guys doing this? Like this is unnecessary. And we were like, well, we don't know what that is. Like we don't have anything to do with that. Which I mean, I'm sure some of the people who are engaging in this behavior are probably people who are genuine fans of Haddie and just aren't mature enough to interact responsibly with people on the internet, which is like very shameful. And I hate that this is happening so much because it makes it so much harder for us to make good faith arguments if people are just running at it and attacking people, and like it just makes it harder for us to have a positive outlook on this when people are doing this, and that's so disappointing to me.
And once again, that doesn't reflect on the entire fan base as a whole. Like we don't stand for that. Like we also frown upon that.
All right, yeah, that's just all I wanted to like add and say because like you said, that really doesn't reflect on the fan base, and it's not uncommon for people in fan bases to like pose as like something else and then send death threats to make that like a certain fan base look bad. I've seen that in other fandoms. I've especially seen that in the Drag Race fandom. It's very popular there. So I just wanted to get my 2 cents out.
I think we also just need to remember that whenever there's like a big movement in any fan base, there's always going to be like weird people on burner accounts sending threats to people. Like
Yeah.
it happens in every fan base. Whenever there's any sort of movement, it sucks.
Especially when you
Nobody
consider how
supports
easy
it
it
at
is to
all.
make a burner.
Yeah, it's just like when you've been on the internet in these fandoms for so long, I guess it's like such a common thing to have to be like, oh no, I'm not one of those fans. Like, y'all, I was in the Steven Universe fandom. It was like the trenches. Like, you have to be like, oh, I like Steven Universe, but I'm not like one of those people who's like doing all the shit Steven Universe fans were doing. Like,
Right.
it's a thing where it's just poor representation. I think it's a thing generally on the internet. People will be like, oh, like people will be like the Undertale fandom, and like you can say whatever you want about the Undertale fandom. I have no opinion on that, but a lot of the time it's a thing where the most negative outcome of something is the thing that gets pushed to the front because the positive impacts are not necessarily as interesting to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. People.
Very well.
Yeah, you said it very well.
I think everybody here agrees on that.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think we're trying to create a positive, loving outlook on this character, and it's just so terrible that they have to go through that.
Exactly. And like the whole thing stems from love for the character, because we want to see her like get love from the devs because we love her.
Exactly. Like constantly, like people post artwork of her and model skins for her, and I feel like it's important that like we try and blow that up as much as possible, because they're really
Exactly.
talented, driven people who love Haddie and want to see that reflected from the dev team. And I think it's just absolutely awful that these people are going out of their way to do something so nasty and awful.
Absolutely.
I just want to emphasize that we should be respectful to the devs. Don't go into specific devs comments asking for Haddie cosmetics, but I do think that we should I just think that it's sad how like all of our efforts like to embrace Haddie, like we make fan arts of her, we love Haddie, but it's being pushed to the back because people are being evil people.
Exactly.
Let's at the moment focus on the activities we are doing as content creators. Like there is the stream on Sunday, there is the Haddie Week set by Lexicat in 1 week. Let's keep sharing clips, arts, and stuff of Haddie during the whole month. Like, and I think that it's the best way.
Does anyone have anything else to say? It's been an hour and a half since the space started.
I do believe we've touched on everything. Does anybody else before we go have anything they'd like to add or say? If they do, if you do, you can just request. And okay,
Let's talk about the Skechers.
Y'all wait,
Not
y'all
too
know I
much.
got a big mouth. Hold on. I just think that a lesson we can all learn from this sort of shared experience as a community is that from now on we need to first of all be responsible with how we interact with people on the internet. This like I know not like everyone has been like I'm just saying this generally, like we need to be responsible with how we interact with people on the internet. And I think that the best way to go about this going forward, like Jane said, is to just make it overwhelmingly positive and not as much focus on the negative. Of course, the criticism is needed when it's done in good faith and done with respect. But going forward, I think the most productive thing we can do is just push as much love and positivity about Haddie as we can.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100.
I agree. Like, I feel like it's really important to let the developers know that the reason that we're so upset at the way she was treated is because they create a character that a lot of people can identify with and that really resonates with a lot of people. And I feel like I just really hope that people at Behavior understand that the only reason this is so upsetting is because she's touched a lot of us very deeply, and we're all very happy that she exists.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we are going to push on Sunday with Ashauri. Like, it's one of the things we spoke the most about, like her sharing how important is actually Haddie for her.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
And something.
you know, I hope.
Ooh, sorry, you go.
No, you're completely fine. Go on.
Something really exciting about that as well is that they could be working on a Haddie skin or like making a concept for a cosmetic as we speak, and we don't know. There's always hope.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all we can have, hope.
Hope.
So, exactly. I mean, with that, I think we've touched upon everything we needed to touch on. We learned a very important lesson, which is be respectful, like when asking. And yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. So thank you everybody for participating and everything. I hope you maybe learned something new or you have a new perspective on it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye, Haddie Nation.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Haddie Nation.
Bye, Haddie
Bye.
Nation. Bye, Haddie Hive.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Thank you all for coming. It's Haddie Hive. Bye.